Good morning. I'm News Center Maine's Don Kerrigan, filling in for Pat Callahan this morning as best I can, joined by our analysts, Ken Altshuler and Ray Richardson. Thank you guys for being with us on this Sunday morning. Been quite a week for President Biden that he probably would like to forget his end of the year one press conference, but particularly when it came to the issue of Russia and Ukraine.
Any assembled Russian units move across the Ukrainian border, that is an invasion.
I think the message didn't go quite the way he wanted. Ken, how big a problem has this become?
Well, first I have to say, I find it so ironic that people are critical of Joe Biden for being Joe Biden. This has been Joe Biden for 30 plus years. This is not unusual for Joe Biden. He has faux pas all the time. He misspeaks all the time. He fumbles all the time. Somehow we thought when he got president, all of a sudden he'd be really articulate, which is not going to happen. That being said, when you're talking about foreign policy and you're talking about Russia, you need to be very careful what you say. And making a comment like, a small incursion would not be a big deal in so many words. Really not the message you want to send to President Putin or to the European community. So, stumbling over words is expected and can be overlooked. Stumbling over words on that stage in that subject area was really, really bad.
Yeah. And the president had to make clarifying remarks, and his staff had to go out, try to clean it up at least once, if not twice. And do you think everybody now knows where we stand, or what do you think, Ken?
I don't think Joe Biden knows where we stand. And one of the problems is, Don, that it's a very difficult situation. We're not going to send military forces into the Ukraine. The financial impact of an invasion is going to be devastating to the world, particularly Europe. You're talking about inflation now, and we'll get to that later. That'll make things worse. But he'll certainly do what he can do with NATO. But no, he has not made a clear statement.
There is a complete lack of clarity, not just in this country, but around the world about where Joe Biden stands on things. We're talking about a predator. Vladimir Putin is a predator, and he hates the fact the Soviet Union broke up. He's amassed hundreds of thousands of troops on the Ukrainian border. Is it a bluff? I don't know.
And Europe is maybe not all on the same page either. So what's going to happen?
Well, I think a couple of things. Number one, we cannot be sending brave Americans to Ukraine. I think we should support them with military aid. But sending American boots anywhere, this has got to stop. Ukraine has got to defend itself. They're not a member of NATO. And we've got to remember, we can't go out and defend everyone everywhere. We've got to put America first.
And Ken, of course, Europe is vulnerable, especially in winter, to gas coming from Russia. So this is a pretty delicate situation.
The three major pipelines go through the Ukraine. And so, yeah, you have that shut down, and Russia gets hurt, Europe gets hurt, and America gets hurt, and Joe Biden gets hurt because not only is inflation bad now, you just wait. So one of the solutions I heard, which was an interesting proposition, was Western Ukraine becoming part of Poland, and then Poland, of course, having much more power and influence and being part of NATO. So that's a creative solution, but the only solution is Russia not invading the Ukraine. And I'm not sure how you stop them from doing that.
Staying in Washington, the big focus, of course, with Congress was on the voting rights, the filibuster issue, and all that. The Democrats weren't able to progress in any sense on those two issues. Angus King and Susan Collins on opposite sides of those vote. What happens now? Will they take elements of the Voting Rights Act or the John Lewis Act and try to pass those individually? Can they do that? And is this truly a threat to voting rights?
Well, that's a great question, Don. And some of the states' legislatures, some of the revisions and modifications are somewhat of a suppression of voting. Others are very common sense, like voter ID. Most Democrats don't have a problem with voter ID. So some of the changes on the state level are not bad. Some of them are. The voter rights bills, both bills are dead. We knew they were dead when Manchin and Sinema said they were not going to vote for the filibuster. And by the way, I have to comment on the typical hypocrisy of Washington. In 2013, Harry Reid suspended the filibuster rule to pass federal judges. In 2017, they did it to get Gorsuch confirmed by the Senate. Both parties do it when it suits them. It is a stupid rule, frankly. I would have loved to see the speaking filibuster come back. I think that was a rational modification, and I would have liked to see that happen because there's no such thing as a filibuster because Mr. Smith doesn't go to Washington anymore.
I got to say, from the state of Maine standpoint, I was very disappointed I don't agree with Senator King on most political issues, but I believe him to be a smart man. I believe him to be a gentleman. And for him to say that not the passage of this could lead to the collapse of our democracy, the kind of hyperbole, and look, it's politics. We all know hyperbole is really that's basically what we have now. But issues like the national debt could lead to the end of this government. A border that is so porous, we have no idea who's coming in here, friend or foe, or just people seeking to get rid of to leave oppression. But this Voting Rights Act, a lot of this is hyperbole. What they really want to do is they want to get rid of photo ID. And what I'm tired of hearing of as a white person, let me be clear, as a white person, why do we continue to allow certain people to say that black people and brown people can't follow the same rules as white people? And I'm tired of people like Joe Biden pretending for political reasons that black and brown people are inferior. And that's what he said in the press conference. If you listen to his words, this is nonsense.
Ray, let's be honest. Democrats want laws that help them more of them get elected. Republicans want laws that help more of them get elected. The problem is that most minorities are tending to be the poorest of the lot, and particularly in urban cities, and have more difficulty getting out to vote. That's why mail-in ballots and being able to mail them out to everybody and making it easier tends to get a higher Democratic turnout. I have no problem with both parties trying to get their nominees elected, but that's what it's all about. And for Republicans to say, no, we're not trying to suppress the vote. Yes, they're trying to suppress Democratic votes, and Democrats are trying to suppress Republican votes. That's how they get elected.
Here in Maine, towns and cities continue to deal with the Omicron variant. More communities have adopted forms of mask mandates. Ken, I'll start with you. Is this inevitable, and is it too late for doing this, or is it the right decision?
It is the right decision. Our town of Freeport just last night voted for mandatory face masks in public places. And I think look, I haven't gotten the flu in 2 years. I've never gone 2 years without a flu. And you know why? I've worn a mask. And I'm not a rabid COVID fearmonger. I have forgotten to wear my mask. I have not dashed back to my car to get it. I've been smart. I have not gone into huge populated places without a mask. But I think it's a common sense precaution at a time that Omicron is invading our country. The numbers are huge. The peak is probably coming down now. And yes, representative government. So if a community says mandatory mask, that's the majority rule. I'm all in on it.
As you may imagine, I don't agree. If a private business wants to say no shoes, no shirt, no mask, no service, I have no problem with that. But look, these pieces of cloth that people are wearing on their face, Dr. Fauci, who I don't respect, but Dr. Fauci said in the beginning of this thing, the particles of the virus are too small. They'll pass to and from. And look, President Biden is now sending out N95 masks because at least if they're properly fitted, those could do something. I think this is much ado about nothing. We should be safe. Omicron is serious. The virus is serious. I had it. I thought I was going to die. But the fact of the matter is we're fooling ourselves, I believe, into a false sense of security. These little pieces, people wrap scarves around their faces and call it a mask. It's just crazy to me.
So what do we do? Just say, hey, if you're sick, stay home, keep your distance, and that's it?
Well, if you'll remember back in the last pandemic, 2009, 2010, Dr. Dorian Mills got out in front of the thing, and it was far more contagious but less deadly. And she empowered people with the best information, the best practices, and then she trusted them to do it. I think this thing has gotten so political. Who knows where we're at with it now? I do know this. Great Britain is ending vaccine passports, mask mandates, and they're moving on, and maybe we should follow their lead.
The legislature this week got a long-awaited the draft of a study report on how to end hunger in Maine, which has gotten a lot of attention, the problem of ending hunger. And basically this report says you're only going to end hunger if we end poverty, and with a deadline of 2030. Ray, I'll start with you. Is this something that's even possible for the state to do?
Well, I don't think you can ever completely eradicate poverty, but this report to me was like saying water is wet. End poverty, end hunger. Hello, of course. And I think what we've got to do is try to build a more robust economy, that embraces everyone. And I think we do that by looking at the trades and this kind of thing. And again, empowering people with the tools to how to get themselves out of poverty. We see people do it. Not everyone does, but we've got to help people that haven't had role models in their lives and teach them the kind of things that will help alleviate poverty so they can build financial lives and live out the kind of financial freedom that everybody wants to live, so they can do the things they want to do. But saying poverty ends hunger is like saying water is wet.
Yeah. Ken, when the federal government, the state government, been trying to end poverty at least since the mid-1960s. Clearly, we haven't done it yet. It's gotten worse for some people. What happens with this report? Do you think that the state would be willing to make big changes, even big investments in more programs, if it would reduce poverty and therefore reduce hunger?
Well, you're both right, Don. You've hit it right on the nail, and so is Ray. I mean, obviously, it starts with money, but it also is cultural. And we have to understand that Maine in particular is a state of very proud people. And many poor people, people in rural areas, they culturally won't necessarily come out and ask for money or for food. And we don't have a huge minority population in Maine. We are a very white state, but there are some cultural differences between us. And some people don't want to seek that help. It's staggering to think that a country like ours, the greatest country in history of the world, would have one child go to bed hungry. It is frighteningly sad, and it's amazing. But the solution is money. Solution is education. The solution is a robust economy and benefits for all. And the solution is cultural, reaching out and telling people it's okay to get help. It's okay to feed your child. It's okay. We're a community here to help you. So yes, can we end poverty? Yes, we could end poverty anytime we want to. It's a matter of outreach, and it's a matter of being dedicated to that goal. And I hope we are, and I hope we do it.
All right. Winners and losers of the week, Ray?
Well, I'm turning 60 years old, something I never thought I would do today. So I'm going to call myself the winner for getting to 60. Hallelujah.
There you go.
I think obviously the loser was President Biden. His gaffe on the phrase small incursion. I hope and I pray, and I've already prayed, that doesn't lead us down a path none of us want to go.
All right. Ken?
Well, the loser, in my opinion, is clearly Donald Trump. He's going to start facing the music. There's prosecutions in New York, in Georgia, both financially and for misconduct in the election. And clearly, Rudy Giuliani now and some of the people, his campaign workers, had this conspiracy. I think this is going to be the beginning of the end for him. The winner is no doubt Ray Richardson for turning 60 years old. I'm all in on that, Ray. Happy birthday to you, buddy.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We'll echo that. Thank you both for joining us. Thank all of you for joining us on Political Brew. News Center Maine continues right after this.